The stars looked different tonight. Olivia Russell noticed it first from her command post on the International Space Station Alpha. Something moved against the black canvas of space, something that shouldn't be there. Control, this is Captain Russell. I'm tracking an anomaly at coordinates 227 by 43. Can you confirm? Her voice remained steady despite the quickening of her pulse. After a moment of silence, ground control responded. Captain, we have no scheduled objects in that sector. Are you certain? Olivia adjusted the station's external cameras, zooming in on the disturbance. What had begun as a faint distortion now revealed itself as a formation of vessels unlike anything built by human hands. Their hulls shimmered with an iridescent material that seemed to bend light around them. Control, we have visitors. I repeat, we have visitors, and they're definitely not ours. The year was 2087. Humanity had established a modest presence beyond Earth, research stations on the Moon and Mars, mining operations in the asteroid belt, and deep space monitoring outposts. But interstellar travel remained theoretical. Until now, Earth had believed itself alone. Within hours, news of the alien arrivals spread across Earth. The vessels, 7 in total, positioned themselves in high orbit, maintaining formation, with impossible precision. Their size became apparent as they eclipsed entire star fields, each one larger than the biggest aircraft carriers humans had ever built. Dr. Alan Mitchell sat in his office at the International Xenolinguistic Institute, surrounded by screens displaying the incoming transmissions. As the world's foremost expert in theoretical alien communication, he had spent his career preparing for this moment. It's structured, he muttered to his assistant. These aren't random signals. There's a pattern, mathematical sequences followed by what might be language constructs. His fingers flew across the keyboard, feeding the patterns into the quantum computers that lined the walls of his lab. The machines hummed as they processed the alien communication, searching for meaning. 3 days after first contact, the aliens made their intentions clear. They broadcast simultaneously on all Earth frequencies in perfect English and every major human language. People of Earth, we are representatives of the Galactic Hegemony, a collective of 37 spacefaring civilizations. Your world has been charted for integration into our domain. Resistance is unnecessary and inadvisable. We come with superior technology and resources. Your cooperation will ensure minimal disruption to your societies. The message continued with detailed instructions for Earth's leaders to assemble for formal negotiations. The location, Geneva, Switzerland. Jack Donovan watched the broadcast from his cabin in the mountains of Colorado. The retired Navy SEAL had left military service years ago, seeking peace after too many covert operations. Now, as he stared at the screen, he felt a familiar tension return to his body, the soldier's instinct that recognized a threat. This isn't a friendly visit, he said to no one in particular. In Geneva, the world's most powerful people gathered in the United Nations Hall. Presidents, prime ministers, kings, and generals, all waiting for their first face-to-face encounter with alien life. The hegemony representatives entered without ceremony. They stood 7 feet tall, with slim bodies covered in what appeared to be a combination of natural armor and technological enhancements. Their faces had features that seemed almost human, eyes, mouth-like openings, but arranged in unsettling proportions. I am Admiral Krax, the leader announced, voice resonating through translators worn by the human delegates, Chief Expansion Officer of the Hegemony's Outer Rim Division. Your planet has been assessed as a Class 3 developing world, with valuable resources and strategic position. We offer protection and limited technological exchange in return for your allegiance and resource sharing. The negotiations lasted less than 6 hours. Earth's military leaders presented their concerns about sovereignty. Admiral Krax responded by activating a small device that disabled all electronics within a 5-mile radius of Geneva. When systems returned online, satellite feeds showed 3 major military installations, one in North America, one in Asia, and one in Europe, had been precisely destroyed. No human casualties, but a clear demonstration. These were warning shots, Admiral Krax explained calmly. The hegemony prefers peaceful integration. Your weapons cannot harm our vessels. Your technology cannot detect our movements. We offer partnership, not conquest. But partnership requires recognition of the natural order between advanced and developing species. One by one, Earth's nations surrendered. Some immediately, others after brief and futile resistance. Within 2 weeks, the galactic hegemony had established administrative centers in 12 major cities and begun the process of resource assessment. Olivia Russell was reassigned as liaison between Earth space operations and the hegemony fleet. Her first meeting with the alien administrators left her cold with dread. "Your orbital infrastructure is primitive but functional," the hegemony official told her. "It will be repurposed for resource processing. Your astronauts may continue to operate the facilities under our supervision." "And what resources exactly are you planning to process?" Olivia asked. The alien's expression didn't change. Their faces rarely showed emotion, but something in its posture suggested amusement. "Everything this planet has to offer. Earth is remarkably rich in biological diversity and mineral deposits. The hegemony values efficiency. Nothing will be wasted." Dr. Alan Mitchell worked tirelessly to understand the hegemony's true intentions. Through his official role as communication specialist, he gained access to more of their transmissions than most humans. What he discovered kept him awake at night. In a secured laboratory beneath his institute, Alan met with a small group of trusted colleagues. "They're not here for partnership," he told them, voice low despite the room's security measures. "Based on their internal communications, Earth is being treated as a temporary acquisition. They're accelerating resource extraction because they plan to move on once they've taken what they need." Professor Linda Harrison, a geophysicist, nodded grimly. "My models show the same thing. At their current extraction rates, we're looking at ecological collapse within 5 years. While most of humanity adjusted to life under alien rule, Jack Donovan made his way across the country, connecting with former military contacts. He found others who shared his suspicions about the hegemony's true nature. Together, they formed the nucleus of a resistance movement, staying off official records, communicating through methods too primitive for the aliens to monitor. One night, as Linda Harrison worked late in her hidden laboratory, her equipment detected an unusual signal. It didn't match hegemony communications. It came from somewhere beyond Neptune in the distant reaches of the solar system. The pattern was regular, purposeful. Linda cross-referenced the signal with every known natural phenomenon and human-made satellite. Nothing matched, but something about the mathematical structure seemed vaguely familiar, like a half-remembered melody. She made a decision. Using secure channels established by the growing resistance network, she contacted Jack Donovan and Alan Mitchell. "I found something," she told them. "Something out there in the darkness beyond Pluto. And I don't think it belongs to the hegemony." As Earth endured its first months of subjugation, that distant signal grew stronger. Something ancient was awakening in the cold void of the outer solar system, something that remembered when humanity looked to the stars not with wonder, but with authority. Linda Harrison had not slept properly in days. The mysterious signal from the outer solar system consumed her thoughts. She worked in a small underground lab that the resistance had set up in an abandoned mining facility. The walls were lined with equipment salvaged from research centers before the hegemony could claim them. "It's getting stronger," she told Alan Mitchell as he entered the lab. "And more complex. It's not random noise, it's a message." Alan studied the patterns on her screen. His eyes widened. "These sequences, they remind me of old military protocols, pre-unification era." Military protocols? From 200 years ago? That's impossible. Linda brushed a strand of hair from her face. Nothing from that time could still be operational out there. "Maybe not from that time exactly," Alan said quietly. "But what if someone used those old protocols as a foundation for something newer, something meant to remain hidden until needed?" Their conversation was interrupted by Jack Donovan, who entered with Samuel Wright, a thin man with nervous eyes. Samuel worked as an archivist in what remained of the government's classified records division, now mostly under hegemony control. "This is the man I told you about," Jack said. "He has access to files even the aliens don't know exist." Samuel placed a small data drive on the table. "What you're looking for might be in here. Files from Operation Sleeping Giant, a contingency plan created before I was born. Most of it was above my clearance level, but I've heard whispers about it my whole career." They connected the drive to an isolated computer. The files were heavily encrypted, but Alan had experience breaking government codes. After hours of work, the first documents appeared on screen. "My God," Linda whispered as she read. "According to this, humanity once possessed interstellar capabilities." The documents told an incredible story. Centuries ago, Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel and established colonies on distant worlds. But they also encountered something in deep space, an entity referred to only as the Void. A catastrophic war followed. "The war nearly destroyed humanity," Alan read aloud. "Our ancestors made a desperate choice. They retreated to Earth, erased public knowledge of their stellar empire, and placed their most powerful warships, Dreadnoughts, in hibernation throughout the solar system." Jack leaned forward. "Hibernation? You mean there are warships out there? Right now?" "Not just warships," Linda said, pointing to another section of text. "According to this, they're self-sustaining ecosystems with crews in suspended animation, and technologies far beyond anything we have today, or even what the hegemony has shown us." The documents explained that the Dreadnoughts were programmed to awaken when Earth faced an existential threat. The signals Linda detected were the ships beginning to activate after sensing the hegemony's arrival. "There's more," Samuel said. "The program included a control facility hidden beneath the lunar surface. From there, the awakening process can be accelerated." Jack stood up and paced the room. "The moon is heavily occupied by hegemony forces now. Getting there won't be easy. But it might be our only chance," Alan replied. "The documents indicate Earth has maybe 5 years before the hegemony's extraction methods cause irreversible damage. We need those ships now, not whenever they decide to fully wake up." Meanwhile, Olivia Russell attended another meeting with hegemony officials aboard their orbital command center. As Earth's space operations liaison, she had more contact with the aliens than most humans. What she saw disturbed her deeply. The hegemony commander displayed holographic models of Earth's continents. Large sections were highlighted in red. "These extraction zones will be cleared of human habitation within the next month," he stated without emotion. "The populations will be relocated to designated areas." "Those zones contain some of our most fertile farmland," Olivia protested. "Millions of people have lived there for generations. Their agricultural methods are inefficient. We will implement superior techniques in other regions." The commander switched the display. "These new zones are scheduled for the following phase." Olivia felt sick as she recognized even larger territories marked for clearance. The hegemony wasn't just taking resources. They were systematically dismantling human civilization. After the meeting, she made her way to a maintenance section of the station where monitoring was less intensive. Using equipment modified by resistance sympathizers, she sent an encrypted message to a contact on Earth, Dr. Alan Mitchell. Back in the underground lab, the team received Olivia's message. The situation was worse than they had feared. The hegemony was accelerating its timeline. "We need to reach that lunar facility now," Jack said. "No more planning. No more preparation. We're out of time." Linda pulled up the technical specifications from the classified files. "According to this, the facility is located beneath the Copernicus crater. We would need to bypass hegemony security and then find a way to access a structure that's been hidden for centuries." "I can get us there," Jack said. "I've been tracking the supply ships that run between Earth and the hegemony's lunar base. Their security is good, but not perfect." Alan nodded. "And Samuel can help us with credentials. The hegemony has been using modified human identification systems. He knows how they work." They assembled a small team. Besides Jack, Linda, Alan, and Samuel, they recruited Eric Coleman, a computer specialist who had worked on military systems before the invasion, and Grace Martinez, a former Air Force pilot who now worked as a shuttle mechanic under hegemony supervision. As they prepared for the mission, Linda kept monitoring the mysterious signals. They were changing, becoming more numerous. "It's not just one signal anymore," she told the others. "I'm detecting similar patterns from multiple points in the outer system. Whatever's out there, it's waking up, and it's not alone." One night, as Earth passed through the shadow of a hegemony ship, Olivia noticed something strange through the station viewport. A star seemed to move against the background of space, not like a satellite or ship, but with purpose. It blinked once, twice, 3 times in a pattern that matched no known navigation signal. She checked the station's sensors, but they registered nothing unusual. Whatever she had seen was invisible to hegemony technology. A chill ran down her spine, not from fear, but from a sudden, inexplicable feeling of hope. Far beyond Neptune, in the darkness of the Kuiper Belt, something massive stirred. Systems that had lain dormant for centuries began to power up. Ice that had formed on ancient hulls cracked and drifted away into space. Inside sealed chambers, humans who had slept for generations prepared to awaken. The first of Earth's forgotten guardians had heard the call. The Dreadnoughts were coming home. The supply ship rose through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing orange from the heat of re-entry. Inside the cargo hold, hidden behind containers of processed minerals, Jack Donovan and his team huddled in uncomfortable silence. The plan had worked so far. Samuel's forged credentials had gotten them past the ground checkpoints. Now came the dangerous part, reaching the moon without being discovered. Linda checked her tablet one last time before shutting it down. The signal patterns have changed again. They're becoming organized, almost like they're talking to each other. "Let's hope they keep talking until we can get to that control center," Jack whispered. Grace Martinez, seated closest to the cockpit, raised her hand for silence. "We're approaching the lunar checkpoint. Everyone stay absolutely still." The ship slowed as it entered lunar orbit. Through a small gap between containers, they could see the gray surface of the moon growing larger. Hegemony structures dotted the landscape, angular buildings of metal and glass that seemed out of place against the ancient crater fields. The ship docked at the main hegemony processing facility. Jack counted 5 minutes of crew movement, then silence as the automated unloading began. Eric Coleman activated a small device that interfered with the cargo bay's internal sensors. "We have 20 minutes before they notice the glitch," Eric said. They moved quickly, slipping out between robotic loaders. The hegemony lunar base was mostly automated, with only a few alien supervisors overseeing the operation. Jack led them, through service corridors mapped from stolen security files. "The Copernicus crater is 12 miles north of here," Linda said, as they reached an exit hatch. According to the old files, the entrance to the facility should be near the crater's western rim. Outside, they faced the harsh lunar landscape. Grace had secured a maintenance rover, a sturdy vehicle used for external repairs. They climbed aboard, and Grace guided it away from the hegemony compound along a seldom-used service path. "Keep low and slow," Jack advised. "Their orbital scanners are looking for energy signatures, not vehicles." The rover crawled across the lunar surface for almost an hour before Linda signaled them to stop. "This matches the coordinates from the files. The entrance should be somewhere nearby." They searched the area, finding nothing but lunar dust and rocks. Samuel studied his copy of the classified documents, looking confused. The entrance was disguised to be undetectable. The files mention a key, some kind of activation sequence. Alan looked thoughtful. In the old military protocols, genetic recognition was common. Maybe it's not something we do, but something we are. Linda nodded slowly. Human DNA. The facility was built to respond to humans, not aliens. They spread out across the area, each person stepping carefully on the lunar surface. Minutes passed with no result. Then suddenly, Eric called out. The ground beneath his feet had begun to glow with a soft blue light. The light spread outward in a perfect circle, encompassing the entire team. Then, silently, a section of the lunar surface slid open, revealing a dark passage leading down. "That wasn't subtle," Jack said. looking nervously toward the hegemony base now just visible on the horizon. Someone might have noticed that light show. They descended quickly. The passage sealed itself behind them, and lights activated along a corridor that stretched deeper beneath the lunar surface. The air was stale but breathable, life support systems awakening after centuries of dormancy. The corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything they had seen before. Curved surfaces of unknown material glowed with internal light. Displays activated as they entered, showing star charts and technical schematics. In the center of the room stood a raised platform. As Linda approached it, a holographic figure appeared, a man dressed in an unfamiliar uniform. Human genetic patterns recognized, the figure stated, in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere. I am Guardian, custodian of the Lunar Control Facility. State your authorization. The team exchanged nervous glances. Samuel stepped forward. We don't have official authorization, but Earth is under alien occupation. We're activating the sleeping giant protocol. Guardian's holographic face showed no emotion, but the lights in the chamber pulsed briefly. Threat assessment confirmed. Earth faces Category 1 existential danger. The Dreadnought fleet will be activated. The wall behind Guardian transformed into a massive display showing the solar system. Dozens of points of light appeared throughout. The outer planets and Kuiper Belt. These are the locations of humanity's defensive fleet, Guardian explained. 37 dreadnoughts and their support vessels, placed in hibernation following the Void War. Each dreadnought carries a complement of crew in suspended animation, warriors from humanity's stellar age. Linda stared at the display in awe. How long have they been there? The fleet entered hibernation 517 years ago, Guardian replied, following the decision to isolate Earth until the species recovered from the war. 500 years? Alan whispered. Then all this time, all our history was carefully managed, Guardian finished. Your ancestors chose to forget their stellar empire to heal in isolation. The knowledge was preserved only among a select few, generation after generation. Jack studied the display. How long until these ships are fully awake? The closest vessels will arrive within 3 weeks. The furthest will require 3 months to reach full operational status. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Guardian's hologram flickered. Warning, alien craft approaching. Defensive systems activating. Eric rushed to a control panel. They've spotted us. Multiple ships on approach. How long do we need to complete the activation? Jack asked Guardian. The process is already underway, but manual override codes must be transmitted to ensure proper fleet coordination. Linda began working at a console where complex symbols appeared. I can do this. The mathematical patterns match what I've been studying. We need to hold them off, Jack said, drawing a weapon. Guardian, does this facility have defenses? Limited. Lunar-based countermeasures are available, but they will not prevent a determined assault. Outside, the first hegemony ships landed. Alien troops deployed, moving toward the facility's now visible entrance. I need 10 minutes, Linda called. Grace Martinez checked her weapon and looked at Jack. I'll hold the main corridor. That'll funnel them into a choke point. I'll go with you, Jack began, but Grace shook her head. Someone needs to get those codes back to Earth if Linda finishes them. The fleet will need ground coordination. Before anyone could argue, Grace moved toward the corridor, positioning herself at a natural bottleneck. The others could hear the sound of hegemony cutting tools working on the outer doors. Linda worked frantically, her fingers flying across alien interfaces as Guardian guided her. Almost there. The activation codes are forming. The sound of weapons fire echoed from the corridor. Grace's voice came over their comm units, strained but determined. They're through the first door. I can hold them at the second junction, but not for long. Samuel helped Linda transfer the completed codes to portable devices. We each take a copy, redundancy, more weapons fire, then silence from the corridor. Jack checked his gun. We need to move, now. Guardian's hologram pointed to a far wall. There is an emergency exit that leads to the dark side of Copernicus. Hegemony forces have not yet surrounded that area. As they rushed toward the exit, Alan looked back at Guardian. Will you be destroyed when they reach this chamber? The hologram smiled slightly. I am merely an interface. The true Guardian system is distributed throughout the solar system. I will guide the Dreadnoughts home. They escaped through the emergency tunnel as the sounds of alien troops entering the main chamber echoed behind them. The tunnel opened onto the shadowed floor of Copernicus crater, far from any hegemony outpost. Grace gave us this chance, Jack said quietly as they moved across the lunar surface. We need to make it count. In orbit above, Olivia Russell noticed unusual activity among the hegemony ships. Something had alarmed them, and in the deep darkness beyond the outer planets, the first of the awakening dreadnoughts began to move toward home, their ancient engines creating ripples in space that no hegemony sensor could properly interpret. Earth's long sleep was ending. The stars were about to remember who we were. Admiral Crack stood before the glowing tactical display aboard his command ship. The holographic projection showed unusual energy readings from the outer solar system. Something was moving toward Earth, something that didn't match any known signature in the hegemony database. Report, he demanded of his science officer. Unknown, Admiral. The objects are using a propulsion system we cannot identify. They appear to be large vessels, but they don't register properly on our scanners. Crax's facial scales darkened with concern. How many? At least 3 confirmed, possibly more behind them. The Admiral made a swift decision. Deploy the fleet, in defensive formation. Alert all ground forces on Earth and the Moon. Whatever these objects are, they will not interfere with our operations. On Earth, conditions had worsened in the month since the lunar mission. The hegemony, alarmed by the Resistance's growing boldness, had tightened their control. Cities now operated under strict curfews. Resource extraction had increased, with entire regions evacuated to make way for hegemony machinery. Jack Donovan and what remained of his team had gone into hiding. They operated from a network of underground facilities, coordinating resistance cells worldwide. The activation codes from the lunar base had been distributed to trusted groups on every continent. We've lost contact with Samuel, Eric reported, during their daily meeting. He was trying to access more classified archives when the hegemony raided the facility. Linda looked up from her monitoring equipment. The good news is the dreadnoughts are definitely awake. I'm tracking 3 vessels approaching from beyond Neptune. Their speed is incredible. They're covering distance in days that should take months. Any communication from them? Jack asked. Alan shook his head. Nothing we can detect. But the hegemony is reacting. They're repositioning ships across the system. Olivia Russell watched from the space station as hegemony vessels moved into defensive positions. Her alien supervisors had become increasingly agitated, though they tried to hide it. Something had them scared. Captain Russell, a hegemony commander, approached her at her workstation. Have your people detected any unusual transmissions from Earth in the past month? Olivia kept her expression neutral. Nothing beyond normal communications. Why do you ask? Routine security, the alien replied, but his darting eyes betrayed his concern. Report anything unusual immediately. As soon as the commander left, Olivia used her hidden communication device to send a message to the Resistance. The hegemony was worried, which meant the plan was working. Beyond the orbit of Neptune, the first dreadnought moved with purpose toward the inner solar system. Unlike the blocky, utilitarian design of hegemony ships, the human vessel was elegant and streamlined. Its hull was midnight black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. It measured nearly 2 miles from bow to stern, larger than any warship in the hegemony fleet. Inside the dreadnought, in a chamber filled with softly glowing light, Captain Diana Flores opened her eyes for the first time in 5 centuries. The revival process had awakened her first as ship's commander. Around her, medical systems monitored her vital signs as her body readjusted to consciousness. Status report, she said, her voice rough from disuse. The ship's artificial intelligence responded immediately. Revival sequence proceeding as programmed, Captain. Command crew awakening in progress. Ship systems at 97% operational capacity. Current situation. Earth is under alien occupation. Hostile forces designated as Galactic Hegemony have established control of the planet and near-Earth space. The Guardian Protocol was activated 34 days ago from the Lunar Command Facility. Diana sat up slowly, accepting a hydration tube from a medical arm. "Show me." A display materialized before her, showing images of Earth under hegemony control. Her expression hardened as she viewed the alien ships in orbit around her homeworld. Time to contact with hegemony forces? Approximately 12 hours at current velocity. Diana nodded. "Wake the senior officers. Bring weapon systems to full readiness. And establish contact with resistance forces on Earth." On the third day after the lunar mission, hegemony sensors detected the approaching vessel. Admiral Krax ordered a battle group to intercept, confident in their superior numbers. "Unidentified vessel," the hegemony commander broadcast. "You have entered restricted space claimed by the Galactic Hegemony. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded." No response came from the black ship. It continued its approach, seemingly unconcerned with the dozen hegemony vessels moving to surround it. "Final warning," the hegemony commander transmitted. "Reduce speed and prepare for inspection or you will be fired upon." Still no response. "Open fire," the commander ordered. Energy weapons lanced out from the hegemony ships, striking the Dreadnought's hull. The black material absorbed the blasts without visible damage. The Dreadnought continued forward, unaffected. Admiral Krax watched, in disbelief as the vessel easily withstood what should have been crippling fire. What is that ship made of? Before his science officer could respond, the Dreadnought finally reacted. Not with weapons, but with a transmission. "Hegemony vessels," a woman's voice stated calmly. "This is Captain Diana Flores of the Earth Dreadnought. Eternal vigilance. You are occupying sovereign human territory. You will withdraw your forces immediately or face consequences," the Admiral himself responded. "Captain Flores, the Earth is under hegemony protection. Your vessel appears to be of human origin, yet we have no record of humans possessing such technology. Explain yourself." "We are what you failed to find when you assessed Earth," Diana replied. "The sleeping giants your scans missed. Earth was never defenseless. We were merely dormant." Krax scoffed. "One ship, however advanced, cannot stand against the hegemony fleet. Look again, Admiral." On Earth, resistance cells received an encrypted message. "Prepare for coordinated action. The eternal vigilance has arrived." Jack Donovan gathered his team. "It's happening. The first Dreadnought has made contact with the hegemony." Linda's equipment suddenly lit up with new signals. "More vessels detected. 3 more Dreadnoughts just appeared in the inner system." On his command ship, Admiral Krax stared in shock as new vessels materialized around his fleet. They had not approached from the outer system. They had simply appeared, as if stepping through invisible doors in space itself. "Impossible," Hidei whispered. The largest of these new arrivals positioned itself directly above Earth. Unlike the approaching eternal vigilance, this vessel was already within striking distance of the planet. Diana Flores' voice came through again. "Admiral, may I introduce the Sovereign Dawn, Stellar Guardian, and Horizon's Edge, my sister ships. While you were watching us approach from Neptune, they activated from hibernation points much closer to Earth." On board the space station, Olivia Russell witnessed the arrival of the massive human warships. For the first time since the invasion, she felt a smile spread across her face as she watched hegemony commanders rushing to battle stations. The Eternal Vigilance moved past the stunned hegemony interceptors, joining its sister ships in Earth orbit. Together, the 4 Dreadnoughts formed a protective formation around the planet. "Admiral Krax," Diana transmitted, "you have 1 hour to begin evacuation of all hegemony forces from the Sol system. After that, we will remove you, ourselves." Krax slammed his fist on the command console. "All ships prepare for full engagement. These humans have revealed their hand. Now we will show them the true might of the hegemony." As hegemony vessels moved to attack positions, the Dreadnoughts remained motionless, waiting. And beyond the orbit of Saturn, 8 more points of light began to move, the rest of Earth's forgotten fleet answering the call home. Admiral Krax ordered his fleet into attack formation. Over 200 hegemony vessels surrounded the 4 human dreadnoughts. In space warfare, numbers usually determined the victor. But these were not usual circumstances. All ships, open fire, Krax commanded. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked across the void, striking the human vessels from all directions. The black hulls of the dreadnoughts absorbed the attacks like water soaking into sand. No explosions, no damage, just silent, impossible resistance. Diana Flores watched from the command center of the Eternal Vigilance. Her crew, men and women from Earth's forgotten age of stellar dominance, worked calmly at their stations. 5 centuries had passed while they slept, but their training remained intact. Power levels stable, her first officer reported. There, weapons are barely registering on our defense systems. Diana nodded. We've given them their chance. Signal the other captains. Coordinated response pattern. The 4 dreadnoughts finally answered the hegemony attack. But instead of returning fire directly, they released thousands of small objects that spread outward like seeds from a dandelion. These devices attached themselves to hegemony ships, and within seconds, the alien vessels began powering down. What's happening? Krax demanded as warning lights flashed across his command ship. Why are our systems failing? His science officer stared at his displays in disbelief. They're using some kind of energy disruption technology. It's shutting down our ships without damaging them. Throughout the solar system, hegemony forces faced the same situation. Their weapons stopped working. Their engines failed. Their communications went silent. The human dreadnoughts had neutralized the entire invasion fleet without destroying a single ship. On Earth, the resistance moved into action. With the hegemony's orbital support disabled, they struck at key control centers. Jack Donovan led an assault on the main hegemony headquarters in what had once been New York City. The alien administrators, cut off from their fleet, surrendered with minimal resistance. Similar scenes played out across the planet. Linda Harrison coordinated the B attacks using the activation codes from the lunar facility. The codes didn't just control the dreadnoughts. They also activated hidden weapon caches and defense systems that had been buried beneath Earth's surface for centuries. This was always the plan, Linda realized as she studied the ancient protocols. Our ancestors never really gave up. They just went into hiding, waiting for the right moment to return. In orbit, Diana Flores opened a channel to Admiral Krax's crippled flagship. His face appeared on her view screen, his scales pale with shock. Admiral, the Sol system is now back under human control, she stated calmly. Your forces will be allowed to leave, but only after agreeing to terms. Terms? Krax sputtered. The hegemony does not accept terms from lesser species. Diana smiled slightly. Look around you, Admiral. Does your situation suggest we are the lesser species? We could have destroyed your fleet. Instead, we chose mercy, something your hegemony didn't offer Earth. She transmitted data to his ship, star charts showing hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Many were highlighted in a particular pattern. These are former human colonies, Diana explained. Worlds we settled before the Void War forced our retreat. Some may still be inhabited by human descendants who, like Earth, forgot their heritage. The hegemony will recognize these as sovereign human territory. Krax stared at the vast stellar map. Impossible. The hegemony has encountered no other human worlds. Because you weren't looking properly. Just as you failed to detect our dreadnoughts. In your survey of Sol, you've overlooked signs of our past presence elsewhere. As Diana spoke with the Admiral, the 8 additional dreadnoughts arrived, completing the fleet of 12 ancient warships. Together they formed a ring around Earth. A protective barrier of black hulls and dormant power. One demonstration, Diana said, nodding to her weapons officer. From the Eternal Vigilance, a beam of concentrated energy shot forth into empty space beyond the moon's orbit. The fabric of space itself seemed to ripple and then flare with the brightness of a small star. The controlled reaction lasted just seconds before the dreadnought systems contained it. That, Diana told the stunned Admiral, was merely 1/10 of our main weapons capacity. We could ignite a star with this technology, or extinguish one. This is what your hegemony faced without knowing it. Cracks, for the first time in his military career, recognized total defeat. What are your terms? In the following days, the hegemony signed the Sol Accords. They would withdraw all forces from Earth and recognize a buffer zone of 50 light-years around the solar system as sovereign human territory. Additionally, they would acknowledge potential human claims to the worlds Diana had identified. On Earth, the recovery began. Hegemony extraction equipment was dismantled. The damage to the environment would take years to heal, but at least the destruction had been stopped before reaching a critical point. Olivia Russell was among the first Earth representatives to board, the Eternal Vigilance. Walking through its corridors was like stepping into a dream of what humanity might have become without the interruption of history. "It's overwhelming," she told Diana as they stood on the ship's observation deck, looking down at Earth. "All this time we had no idea who we really were." Diana nodded. "The decision to hide our past was not made lightly. The Void War nearly destroyed us. Our ancestors believed humanity needed time to heal, to grow again from simpler roots. And now? What happens now that we remember? Now we reclaim our place among the stars, not as conquerors like the hegemony, but as explorers and builders. The 12 dreadnoughts are just the beginning. There are outposts throughout the galaxy waiting to be reactivated, technology to be rediscovered." Jack Donovan joined them on the observation deck. As head of Earth's newly formed Defense Council, he worked closely with the dreadnought captains to coordinate humanity's security. "The hegemony ships have begun their withdrawal," he reported. "Our monitoring systems show them respecting the boundaries so far." "They will," Diana said confidently. "The demonstration convinced them, and word is spreading through galactic channels about Earth's awakening. The galaxy is learning that we were never truly defenseless." Linda Harrison entered with Alan Mitchell, both now leading the effort to integrate ancient knowledge with modern Earth society. "We've begun accessing the full historical archives from the dreadnoughts," Linda said excitedly. "Our true history is amazing. We had reached over 300 star systems before the retreat." As they talked, a communication came through from one of the distant dreadnoughts patrolling the edge of the system. It had detected a signal, faint but distinct, from a star 30 light-years away. The pattern matched old human colonial beacons. "We're not alone," Alan said softly. "There are other human worlds out there, just as isolated as we were." Diana looked at her new allies from modern Earth. "The next chapter begins. The dreadnoughts didn't just awake to defend Earth, they awoke to rebuild what was lost. Our ancestors slept so that one day we could return to the stars." Above them, through the transparent ceiling of the observation deck, the stars seemed to shine with new meaning. Not as distant, unreachable points of light, but as beacons calling. "Humanity home,"